Hello. I want to start by saying, because the things I'm going to say might strike some people differently than I intended to, but I'm going to start this by saying that I am not anti-anybody, not anti-Semitic, anti-anything. I must admit I am pro-black. I am what you people in common jargon would call a black nationalist, a black separatist. But I think everybody should have the right to control their own economics, their own politics, the self-determination of their own people. Some people say that, we should all live in the same house or this or that or that, the same land or whatever. But I feel that for all of us sharing the planet Earth in our different countries, that is sharing the same land, the same space. These different countries act as separate houses or mansions for different and various peoples. Not that I want to stop people from living together if they wish. And also I think it could be a thing where people could, come together and live together sometime and then go back to their own separate dwelling or whatever, own separate space. I believe every race and nation has a right to rule themselves according to their own customs, own cultures, own rules, okay? Now that we got that part over with, I would say that to let you know that I'm not, anti-anybody, because the things I'm going to talk about is going to be really challenging to these type of, to a certain segment of society. But let's say if I was a doctor, if there was black man, white man, Arab, Jew, Indian, whatever. By Indian I mean a Hindu, a Hindu or a Native American. A Hindu first, or Native American, I put it like that. Either or. One's the West Indian, one's the East Indian. But anyway, let's say if all these different people were wounded or hurt and I was a doctor, I would, of course, use the triad system. I would go to who's hurt the worst, and then who's hurt the worst and had the most chance of living, and like that. I wouldn't care what race they were. If it was a fellow black man hurt, and it was somebody of some other race hurt, I would go to the one first that has the most chance of survival. If the black guy didn't have a lot of chance of survival, I wouldn't go to him. If the Jew didn't have a chance of survival, I wouldn't go to him. Whoever had the chance of survival. But now, to say that, I'm going to say this. And this is response to, I follow a lot of the guys that most people call conspiracy guys, Alex Jones, Jordan Maxwell, David Icke, all these different people. I follow, I research the things they say, but actually my research has been the things that they said, I haven't actually done that type of research myself, but I've researched them a lot, and I've researched history a lot, and I've researched religion a lot. And I just want to say, I plan to get my Bible and to read certain chapters to prove my point, but I forgot to get it, so I'm going to have to paraphrase a lot of things that many people know is in the Bible. But when you read in the Bible, everybody talks about the Rothschilds and Jews controlling the world, what have you. And these are mainly Christians, a lot of Christian, right-wing Christians, a lot of people who are right-wing, or they call it right-wing or right-leaning, or even conspiracy theorists, what have you. They talk about the Rothschilds controlling the world. I just want to say that all of them consider themselves Christians. But if you really look at the real Christianity, not the Pauline forgery, and there's a book called James, the Brother of Jesus by Dr. Robert Eisenman. He is a Jew, and perhaps he could be biased to what, perhaps It could be that he's trying to prove that the gospel is not anti-Semitic, but he makes a convincing argument to me that the gospels that we have now are mainly a washover to make Jesus appear more compatible for the Hellenized, Judeo-Hellenized, or the Greco-Hellenized world at that time. The Jesus they have, and he does fit the various Hellenistic and the various gods of the different peoples of that time, going way back to Osiris and Horus and whatnot, Semiramis and Dionysus and Mithra, and these different crucified and raised saviors. They even took Jesus and made his days to fit with the highest pagan holidays of that time. So there was whitewashing there. There was an attempt there to make him more acceptable to the cultures of that time. The real Jesus was probably a character much like what you get with the sectarian sects that wrote the Dead Sea Scrolls. I don't want to call them Essenes. Some people call them Essenes. The different types of Nazareans, the Nazarites, the Ebionites, the poor. I see that in the scripture where they call themselves the poor constantly, The poor, the meek shall inherit the earth. Those are Jewish sectarian type terminologies. I've done a lot of research, and I guess I'm a lay person. A lot of lay research and things into religion. I'm gonna say this, okay? I'm gonna just say this to make a long story short. If you read in the Old Testament, you'll see that Yahweh, the Jews' God, well, I want to pronounce. That's not really. I say it because that's not really how you pronounce his name. I forgot what the initials is for the Tetragrammaton. Okay. So they made a pact with this God, a fealty between them and their God. In the oldest Jewish scripture, there's an understanding that there are many gods, but that this particular God is a Jews' God, the God that they chose and the God that chose them. Now, if you go back to the old Hebrews, Hebrew was a word in the ancient Egyptian Hebrew, I think, that just meant like poor, how people see poor and low class people. Now, I'm not calling them low class, because to me, the people who rule this world are low class. The poor are not low class. But anyway, that was a term they had for poor people on the bottom of the rung, and they were actually Canaanites. The Hebrews were a Canaanite people. They were poor. Some of them were in indentured servitude in Egypt. Different tribes in Hebrew. So what happened? Now this is the official story from official archaeology. So what happened was that these Canaanite, city-states or what have you, they always had a plethora of gods at the top. The emperor, emperor and his royal family, and the priests and whatnot. Those were their gods, and they worshipped them. And the people on the bottom couldn't even come to the temples to worship. They had to get the crumbs off the table. So of course, they had to have a loathing for these gods. Also, I found something years ago. I can't remember where, but it said that the Canaanites were basically Semitic and Indo-European, and the Indo-European Canaanites enslaved the more Semitic ones. The Semitic ones were at the bottom of the rung. Okay. So when these Canaanite city-states, something happened probably, there's a Greek island, I forgot the name of it right now, but it's a Greek island that they did a lot of trade with. And it was an earthquake or either a volcanic explosion, and I think it was Crete, and it could no longer support the seafaring that had made that whole area wealthy. Also extended over to the Palestinian corridor and that whole Middle Eastern area. And when that happened, the powerful Canaanite rulers of these cities, the Indo-European Canaanite rulers of these city-states, no longer had the power to hold the more Semitic ones in fealty or servitude or what have you. So, and even Egypt, the slaves or indentured servants provided by these Canaanite rulers or what have you, or these chieftains, didn't have the power to hold them in servitude anymore, or feed them, or keep their prospective cultures up. So the poorer peoples simply walked off and walked away from servitude in these Canaanite and Egyptian states. And there they met a wandering people, a wandering Arab people, who were like much like Bedouins today in the Bible. They call them Midianites, who worship this God that we now refer to as the Tetragrammaton, or the four letters. And I think he was the only God that they worshiped. They called, the Egyptians had records of these people called the Shasu, they called them, which corresponds to the biblical Esau. So anyway, they adopted the God of these people. And he was a God of relative freedom at that time, what they considered freedom. And so, they made a fealty to this God. I believe that this God, whoever it was one of many. See, gods, we call gods, like a race. Just like human beings, we have separate sub-races of the human family, but like the human beings as a whole would be considered a race. These gods are a race. And to them, we're like chattel. That's why the Jews call us goyim. We're like chattel. And the Jews, or the Hebrews at that time, these different disparate motley crew of people, as the Bible said, gave fealty to this spirit. And so he became their pet. And if you look at the Old Testament, this God promised them that he would make them over all the peoples, to rule all the peoples of the world. And so in that case, the mythologized Jesus, the real man Jesus, served that purpose. He served that purpose. So, because you look at it, it's amazing that this one Jewish family, the Rothschilds, what have you, can control the whole world the way they do. So that means that this God is working for them. But he also sees them like as a pet. So, I'm going to have to get to part 2 because I'm running out of time for part 1. Thank you.